Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of It's a Fine. So, actor Penn Badgley once said, "Is it ever casual?" Whenever he was on the Call Her Daddy podcast recently, they were talking about casual relationships. And he posed the question, is a relationship ever truly casual? You can call it casual, but is it truly casual? I mean, Chapel Roan even has a whole song about this topic, about casual relationships. What makes them casual? What is a casual relationship? What are the expectations in a casual relationship? What would you define a situationship as? That is what we are talking about today. Ah, yes, situationships. The kind of relationship that Gen Zers really despise. And yet, many of them find themselves in a situationship at one point in their lives. And yes, I believe that situationships are a form of relationship. I know that alone is highly debated. We will get into that topic later. But the other day, I was talking to some of my coworkers who are significantly older than me. They are like between the ages of like 50 and I think my one coworker is like 67, something like that. So like mid to late 60s. And I made a joke about situationships. And my one coworker was like, "What on earth is that? What is a situationship?" And I joked, "That's the point. No one really knows." And it got me thinking, what truly is a situationship, because the amount of videos that I see online about situationships is astronomical. So many people make memes about them. So many people talk about their stories in their situationships. I mean, people bring up situationships so casually nowadays, and yet I hardly see anyone be able to clearly define what on earth a situationship even is. I mean, the other day I was even watching like one video online. I think it was supposed to basically be like some form of like a dating series. And the woman asked the guy, like, "Are you in a relationship currently?" And he said no. And then she proceeded to say, "Are you in a situationship or talking to anyone?" And then he said yes. And again, this just goes back to the fact that saying the word situationship is so normalized in our culture, and yet many people cannot seem to be able to define what on earth a situationship is. So, I found this blog from Calm, and I think that they describe a situationship just about as perfectly as you can describe a situationship. So, they described it as a romantic or emotional connection between two people that exists without clear labels or commitments. It went on to say POV, you're spending time together, dating or being intimate, but there's no official title. It can feel like you're in a relationship at times, but there's an unspoken understanding, or sometimes no understanding at all, that things aren't fully defined or official. You might meet each other's friends, but not parents, or you might not talk all the time, but get together on the weekends. It's relationship ish, but not the real deal. So, personally, the way that I define a situationship is it's more than friends with benefits, but less than a committed relationship. And the joke that I always make, but I'm kind of serious when I say this, I feel like if one person in the relationship is confused, then it's a situationship. And the reason why I say that is because I think the thing that situationships lack, that friends with benefits and committed relationships don't lack, is clear communication about the status of the relationship. Hence why people use the term situationship whenever they're trying to describe a relationship that they can't really describe, where they don't really have any other label for it other than a situationship. And even in like the example that Calm gave, it made the point that there's an unspoken understanding or sometimes no understanding at all, leading me to believe that in a situationship there is no like clear communication about what the relationship is. whether you're just friends, whether it's friends with benefits, whether it's a committed relationship, whether you're dating and getting to know each other, you don't know because there is that lack of communication there. And let's also be honest here. I don't know a single person who has ever said that they have had a conversation with somebody and decided that their relationship is a situationship. Like, when on earth has somebody went to their friends and been like, girl, guess what? Me and Kevin finally had the talk, and it's official. We're in a situationship. That doesn't happen. And if it does, I don't know about it, and I would be shocked if that happens. Like, usually you don't, like, decide to be in a situationship. I feel like people find themselves in a situationship and then realize, oh no, I have this kind of relationship with somebody, and we've never clearly communicated about the status of the relationship. And it does appear that situationships are fairly common. So, a recent YouGov business survey found that 50% of Americans ages 18 to 34 have been in a situationship. And additionally, 39% of all U.S. adults have experienced a situationship. So, like I said, this seems to be a very common experience, especially for younger generations. But the question is, why is this happening? Why are we finding so many people in these types of relationships? Well, there doesn't seem to be like any sort of like clear reasoning, but I stumbled across a report from Hinge that I thought was very interesting because it found that 57% of Gen Z Hinge daters admit that they've held back from telling someone how they felt because they're worried it would be a turnoff. It also found that over half of Gen Z Hinge daters say that worrying about rejection has stopped them from pursuing a potential relationship. So once I read that, it kind of led me to believe that maybe sometimes people find themselves in a situationship because they're scared to be vulnerable. That their main issue is that they're scared to convey their feelings and clearly communicate what they want out of the relationship. I mean, think about it. Like I said, the majority of people said that they've held back from telling someone how they feel because they're worried it'll be a turnoff, because they're worried that this person will reject them, that this person will leave if they're honest and open about how they feel about that person and what they want. And if somebody's scared about rejection and about losing somebody, they might stay in this like weird situationship instead of like actually communicating what they want in the hopes of gaining a committed relationship. Some people try to argue that whenever a relationship first starts, like when you first start dating somebody, that that's a situationship. I disagree. I think that a relationship morphs into a like specific situationship when you don't have that like what are we conversation. When you don't communicate about what the relationship actually is. And I think people do need to clearly communicate about what they want out of a relationship, especially nowadays with the fact that situationships are so common. But also, like, it just seems like so many people want so many different things out of relationships. You know, like, there are some people who want what you would call a super casual relationship. They don't want any sort of commitment whatsoever. There are some people that are looking for like a long-term relationship and they'll see where it goes. There are some people who want to get married as soon as possible. Like, different people want different things out of a relationship. So, obviously, you should communicate your wants and your expectations so that way you and this person can be on the same page. I'm all for clear, direct communication, especially when it comes to like dating and you're trying to figure out if you want to be in like a committed relationship with somebody. You got to figure out if you guys even want the same thing out of a relationship, right? The best way to avoid being in a situationship is to never let it start in the first place. And again, this goes back to my viewpoint on situationships. I personally believe that situationships happen when you don't clearly communicate what your relationship is and your expectations and what you're looking for out of a relationship. So if you clearly communicate that, then it can't be a situationship. Now, the question is there any benefit to a situationship? I guess that it could be possible. Maybe. I guess it depends on what you want. Like, if both people in the relationship are okay with the way that it's going, and everyone is like being honest and like at least communicating like their boundaries and their wants, I guess it could be okay. Like, Calm listed pros of a situationship as flexibility in the fact that, like, you can enjoy the connection without the pressure of labels or commitment. It also pointed out that you can get to know someone better without rushing into a serious relationship. And there's just less pressure overall because there's reduced expectations. Now, they did also include a list of cons for a situationship, including emotional confusion, where you feel uncertain, or you may even feel rejected if one person wants more than the other person. You might also feel like you wasted your time if you are in a situationship and you basically delay finding out if somebody wants the same type of commitment that you do. It sounds like more often than not, a situationship does not include any sort of commitment whatsoever. So you sort of lack that stability in the relationship. Like, you don't know the status of the relationship, so therefore you don't really know if it'll be over tomorrow. Which, like, I mean, in a committed relationship, it could end the next day. You never know what's going to happen, but you still lack that sense of stability that a lot of people do desire, especially in those types of relationships. In my personal opinion, I frankly can't see the benefit of, like, actively allowing yourself to be in a situationship. Because I feel that communication is like one of the most important parts of a relationship, and a situationship to me completely lacks that, especially when it comes to like communication in regards to what the relationship actually is. I think situationships sound extremely confusing. Uh they sound like they're unstable, and they just sound really stressful to be in, to be perfectly honest. Like, nothing about a situationship sounds positive to me. But, like, in general, I feel like you really do, at the bare minimum, need to, like, communicate your boundaries and your wants. And I feel like you should communicate what you are looking for in a relationship. That way, you and the person that you're in a relationship with are both on the same page. And I understand that that can be tough, that can be difficult to deal with. It can be hard to be vulnerable, right? Like, the fear of rejection is strong and it is real, and I am not denying that in the slightest. And yes, that person may leave. They might leave, but that's a good thing. Because I get that a lot of people do feel very lonely right now, and they are looking for connection so desperately that they will keep people in their lives whether or not they actually want that person like in their lives, or whether or not they actually like the relationship that they have with this person. Maybe somebody is in a situationship with somebody because they love that person, but that other person doesn't want commitment. So they stay in the situationship because they want that person in their lives, even if it's not in the way that they want or in a way that is healthy for them. And like, that's not good, you know? If it's not healthy for you, it's not healthy for you. And I understand that like being alone can be scary for some people. It can be very difficult. Like, even if you are okay with being alone, sometimes being alone is difficult. But if you think about it, if you like communicate what you want and that person leaves because they don't want the same things, that is a good thing, because then they leave your life, they stop wasting your time, and they leave room in your life for a new person to come into your life who may be able to have the exact relationship with you that you are looking for. And isn't that better? You know, you can't be worried about people leaving, because sometimes people leaving your life can benefit your life in ways that you would never guess. But at the end of the day, whatever the case may be, it's fine.